Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We start as usual. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So in this session, this is the final session of this module. The topic will be about the future trends and the Islamic technological vision. So the titles that will be covered are, so we are going to go through some of the future technology horizons. So what is happening in terms of the technology that we are seeing now. Then we are going to go through an important issue, which is the sustainability and green AI. After that, we will discuss the topic of change management for this digital transformation. It's an important concept. And we will conclude of what I think is our vision for Islamic AI leadership. So let's get started. So the first topic includes some, of course, there might be many, so some of the future technology horizons. Let's begin with one of the revolutionary developments in AI, which is the agentic systems. So what is an AI agent and what is an agentic AI or multi-agent system? The idea is that the current AI responds to prompts. So you ask an AI module to write you something or generate something or develop a website or whatever, and then they will take your command and apply. So the agentic AI will take the initiative, meaning that they have the ability as systems to take the initiative, to make the plans themselves and execute the tasks autonomously, meaning without direct intervention from the user. So imagine, for example, that AI agents can manage entire supply chains or coordinate disaster relief or facilitate complex financial transactions. So the idea here is that these systems will require, now we will take some examples of them, but when we think about it, we will see how this will require higher levels of Islamic ethical programming. So in the screen, you may see some brief definitions and comparison between what is an AI agent and what is agentic AI. But to make it simpler, we have this example here. As you can see, in the left image, we have an AI agent. So for example, in a smart kitchen system, an AI agent will be responsible for automatically and autonomously actually assess the dish and then compute the oven settings. So based on the dish you insert inside the oven, it will decide what temperature you should have. So you are not, as a user, required to modify the settings for the oven. So this is an example of an AI agent. Remember in the first session when we talked about what makes AI different or how to distinguish AI from non-AI systems, we said an important element is autonomy. So here, the system will act independently without direct feedback from the user. But then agentic AI takes this even further. So here we can see that in a smart kitchen hub, you will start, or the agentic AI, which can sometimes be multi-agent system, meaning that you have many AI systems working together without intervention. So they will start by suggesting meals based on what you have in your fridge, starting with what you already have. And then they will have the energy management for the day, throughout the day. So what to put first, what to put next, not to cook everything, for example, at the same time. And then to manage the grocery inventory, what will be required after this is made, after the dishes are made, and to schedule all the meals throughout the day. So it is as if you have a private chef who is working in your kitchen planning the meals, preparing them, delivering them on time, scheduling, managing the inventory and everything, but it's an AI that is doing it. So this is the difference between what is an AI agent and what is agentic AI. So we can see that when we have agentic AI, these systems have a higher level of autonomy and they can execute so much by themselves. So what happens as a result of this development, if I may say, is that now we can have AI recognized as legal and social entities. So in 2017, this is a bit old, but it's still astonishing to say, Saudi Arabia was making global headlines because it granted citizenship to a humanoid robot called Sophia. So this robot was developed by Hansen Robotics, so one of the developers of AIs, and it is able to execute a lot. It is presumably have her own mind and can think and reply. And many interviews, if you looked it up online, you will see many interviews that were conducted with her or it, depending on your perspective. So this historic move marked the first time that any country ever had given nationality to an AI-powered entity. So this is a kind of a recognition from the Saudi kingdom that, okay, we see this robot as a social entity. We see it as an individual who can have their own entity outside the developer entity. So when this was announced, it was intended to highlight the kingdom's openness to advanced technology and its vision for the future. And this actually provoked an international debate, and I believe this will continue to be the case for many years to come as we see more instances like this. So for Muslim societies, and of course this is coming from a Muslim society, we should look at this with some, let's just say, an examining eye, if I may say. So we need to think this through, because if a robot is given citizenship, then along with the citizenship, they get all the rights and obligations, responsibilities of an actual human being. So we're not sure how it's going to be in the future. Maybe in the future, it's going to be just the norm, having these robots being having the same rights as humans. So we don't know. But for now, it's still under debate. So we don't know if this is largely acceptable or if it is not. There are many discussions about is it acceptable or not. So, for example, if you have some economic or business background, you may know that a company has a separate entity from its owners. So if you, for example, start a company and then you, for any reason, fail or decide to close your business, you do not have the direct liability. So you are not required to pay for any losses from your own money. You will pay this from the company's money. So we are dealing with the company as a separate entity. So is it maybe the case that we are treating AI as a separate entity as well? So you develop this robot and then it's out of your responsibility. It's its own entity, and then they have their own, as I mentioned, responsibilities and obligations and rights also. So this is one direction that we don't know how it's going to end. But just a few days ago, actually this was 2 days ago, Albania appointed an AI bot as a minister. So we have seen Some changes, we've seen some robots being charged in factories, being charged maybe in companies, having some consultancy roles. But this is also a first when an AI system is assigned a legal entity. So based on their perspective, the prime minister, the idea is that they are introducing what is called Diela, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, which is a fully AI-generated virtual minister. She will be tasked specifically to eliminate the corruption in public procurement. So the idea is, if I got this correctly, is that when you hire a robot to do the task, it is as if you are taking out the human side, and therefore you will fight the corruption because the robot do not have preferences for who should take the bid or whatever. So the idea here, championed by the minister, is that they want to ensure that the public tenders become 100% free from corruption. So unlike any human minister, this system, this AI system, it will be hopefully very transparent in decision making and is also immune to personal interests, bribes, or threats. So you cannot bribe them or threat them, and therefore you will ensure the transparency and fairness to the procurement process. So by automating and publishing all the decisions also, because it will generate the data, this aims to leapfrog more advanced countries in public sectors integrity and build credibility. So maybe it's a bold move by them. We don't know how this will end, so we can just watch and see how it will turn out. So from an Islamic perspective, so for the Islamic considerations, how does this align with our guidelines? So it is important that we consider the issues in these technological advancements or technology trends. The first and foremost issue is, of course, the agency and accountability. So if this AI system made a mistake, and we've seen similar cases before where one AI chat, I think, I'm not sure if it was ChatGPT or another, actually advised a teenager to murder their own parents because of a misunderstanding or some kind of fight between them. So when this case went to court, who was responsible? Is the AI system responsible for giving that advice? If this was a person, the decision is clear, but it's an AI system. So how do we make this decision? Who will be responsible for the mistakes of the AI systems? The developer, the person who used them after that, or the AI system itself, if we consider them as having their own entity? And also, the issue of intention and purpose. We've talked repeatedly about how in Islamic, from an Islamic perspective, we always have this sense of niyyah. We want to do this based on something special that we have as Muslims, which is seeking Allah, rida. So we want to please Allah. So when we program these systems, how do we ensure that these Islamic objectives are well programmed into these autonomous systems? How do we train them to have this ethical sense or Islamic objective? This is also an issue that can be addressed. And also the issue of justice, which is just a byproduct of accountability and intention. So how do we ensure that the AI system will implement fair decisions when negotiating with each other? Because we've seen that a multi-agent system will be taking information from other systems. So all these systems must be programmed in a way that they have their own values. In the previous session, we've talked about the AI constitution of Anthropic, their Claude systems. So instead of having the human oversight of the system. They actually created, or let's say planted, constitution inside the system itself to self-correct. So if the system made any decision, they will cross-check with their own constitution that is programmed inside of them. So we want to ensure that these systems will not be causing damage or darar. So we want to prevent the darar from happening. Okay, so now we move to another topic, which is also related to the future of AI, which is sustainability and green AI. Let's talk first about the cost of AI. Let's see what are the elements contributing to this high cost of AI. So we can see that training, we're going to take this at certain levels. So at the level of training the system itself. So when we train AI models, this requires hundreds of millions of dollars. So in the figure in front of you, you can see that Gemini was the highest. Then ChatGPT 4. Then we have other systems also that have cost a lot of money to be trained. So this cost have increased a lot since 2020, and we expected to actually, I'm not sure which direction should we expect. Do we expect it to go higher because of the other related costs that I'm going to discuss right now? Or do we expect it to be less because of the efficiencies? Because one model, which is DeepSeek, the Chinese AI model, was developed with only a fraction of this. It was about, I think, only $6 million. So compared to the other models, this is very, very efficient. The idea of developing an AI model with just a fraction of the cost and so even the performance is comparable or sometimes even better than the original ChatGPT model. So this gives us hope that maybe we will not be requiring these amounts of money for future development. Now, why is training AI very expensive? Because the systems uses specialized hardware, accounting for about 67% of the cost. And then we have the cost of the cloud rental. So when we keep all the information in the cloud, we don't usually store all this data in hardware. So it's going to be, it's actually partially hardware because we are going to be using the servers. So the cloud rentals, the energy, and also the staff salaries, because you will require specialized personnel to manage this. And we see the cost has been growing 2 to 3 folds every year, and it is expected to exceed $1 billion by 2027. So with all this increasing cost, so it's not just about the initial development. Now, DeepSeek was able to develop with only $6 million, but the cost will be continuing to incur because of the other related cost. So now, what is the impact of this cost? So, for example, one person in 2025, in April 25, just asked a random question in X, previously Twitter, wondering about how much money OpenAI, which is the company that created ChatGPT, how much it cost in electricity cost from people saying please and thank you. And the next day, Sam Altman, the CEO of the company, answered by saying it's tens of millions of dollars. So this was also a headline for some time, that when we use ChatGPT or any AI model, some of us, maybe most of us, are used to being polite. So you start with, can you please, or you start with greeting. So you say, good morning, how are you? I want you to help me with something. And then when you're done, you just type in, thank you for the information, or this was great, thank you very much. So when you do this, you're just being polite. But the idea is that every word you use is going to generate a prompt. So when you be polite in your request, the AI system is going to match your level of speech. So if you start by greeting, they will, of course, reply the greeting, and this costs money. So when you say thank you, they will reply also, this costs money. So it is important to be generally polite and respectful, because some research has proven that this will actually improve the output you get. By setting a respectful tone, it will get better results for you, but you do not necessarily have to dedicate special queries or requests or messages saying just thank you or just saying good morning or greetings or whatever. So to quantify this, sending one query through ChatGPT was found to require 10 times more energy than running just a standard Google search. So if you just look for some information and you Google it, you will use 1/10 of the energy required if you use ChatGPT, if you take the shortcut and just went to ChatGPT to answer this simple question. And to give this even more context, if you, for example, use ChatGPT to write a short email, so just 100 words with ChatGPT 4, this can consume up to 3 bottles of water. So this is the AI's water footprint. It's not just about the electricity. It's not the only concern, because we also have water usage. So why do we use water? I mean, electricity makes sense. We need to run the system, but why do we need water? The idea is that the data centers need water to be cooled. So you know how when your PC temperature increases because it's running a lot, so the data center is actually being cooled by water. So when you use AI a lot, you will automatically consume a lot of electricity, you will consume a lot of water, and I think this was which year? For Meta, their model, the Llama model, they used 22 million liters of water just to prepare the training for the model. And to make some comparison, this was enough for 164 Americans per year. This is enough water for one entire year of over 160 people. Now, of course, they're just saying Americans because they want to measure the consumption over just a regular American. So we see that its impact, the environmental impact, is high for using AI. And for the simple user, just like us, sometimes we're not aware of this. We're not aware that when we use AI a lot for everything, now it is becoming the norm. Instead of Googling it, you're now ChatGPTing it. You just type in for whatever model you use and look for answers, reply to your emails, just write some short scripts and so on. And for others, there are more advanced uses. For example, for picture photo generation, this will even take more than the simple text generation. So training one AI model was found to emit as much carbon as 5 cars in their lifetime. So we are damaging the environment as well by having this advancement in AI. So now people are thinking that the tech companies are trying to find some alternatives. So renewable energy, for example, having something other than water to cool the data centers and so on. So they're trying to figure out some solutions. But until this happens, we will continue to have this great impact environmentally by using AI. So from an Islamic perspective, how do we relate this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that هو الذي جعلكم خلائف في الأرض. So he made you successors, Khalifa, upon earth. So it is our responsibility to ensure that the resources on earth are used responsibly. So from the first perspective, we can see that efficiency, as the doctor before me also mentioned, it was a very insightful session. Thank you for that. So when we use ihsan, when we work with ihsan, when we sharpen our knives, so we use efficiency as worship. So our objective is not simply to minimize the cost, but we also want to minimize the environmental cost. So we don't want to have this negative impact on the earth resources. So we want to optimize the infrastructure by using energy saving algorithms, maybe renewable sources of power and smart cooling systems. Another aspect is moderation or wasatiyya. So it is important to avoid the excessive computational power when simpler solutions exist. So if your answer can be found using a simple Google search, or maybe just by asking someone, or by doing the actual work yourself, like writing the email, for example, it would be wise and responsible of you to do so, to go for the simpler solution instead of relying on AI, because now you know the impact. And finally, we have the responsibility of preservation or hifz. So we want to minimize the e-waste and also to promote sustainable disposal, because we know that every product or every element will eventually have a product life cycle, and then we need to dispose of them. So we want to generate these materials from materials that can be for example, can be biodegradable, or that can be eliminated without having a further impact on the environment. So this is our role as Muslims, and this is what we need to take care of. Now, moving to the next focus area, which addresses a crucial reality, which is that technology alone does not create transformation. It is people that do the transformation, the people who create the transformation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. So the change will happen when we make the change ourselves. So we change ourselves, and then the change will happen. And this can take many different meanings, but in our context, what we're talking about here is the actual adoption. It actually goes in two ways. So it goes for the actual adoption of the AI systems, because it is relatively, it's not very new, but it's relatively new, and we still see a lot of resistance for people, individuals, for companies, for maybe an entire nation that refuses to use AI because of many other considerations. So digital transformation as an initiative or as a pursuit will try to actually address this by providing the framework that will enable the digital transformation. So we have resistance to new technologies. Even when we don't have this resistance, we still have skills gap or a shortage in qualified candidates who can implement this. And then we need to consider also the cultural integration with the Islamic values. And of course, we need to consider the leadership during the transition period. So if, for example, you are, and it's already happening in many companies, AI is replacing some of the traditional tasks, not employees, although it already happened. Some of the traditional tasks are being replaced by AI. So how do we communicate this change without losing trust or without being very disrespectful to the humans? Remember, we've talked about the human dignity as an important element when implementing AI. So for the digital transformation, Here I list a few of the common concerns and how we can reply to them from an Islamic perspective. So the first concern, I think many of us have thought about this, that technology will replace the human judgment. Now people are worried that the over-reliance on AI will eventually make us lose our judgment or critical thinking. So the reply to this is that AI is just a tool. We've said this before, and we've seen this before with other tools. So starting from the calculators, the educators were refusing that students use calculators because this will embed their computational development. We've seen this with computers also, and all the different technologies that are simply tools. So this is not very different, although the impact is higher because the capabilities of AI are higher, but it's within the same logic. AI is a tool that is here to enhance, not to replace the human wisdom. So we should teach this, and there are actually courses to teach AI literacy, to teach AI fluency, and then teach people, students, how to use AI properly and responsibly. Another concern is that AI conflicts with traditional Islamic practices. So some people see that, well, you cannot use AI to teach people Islam or about Islam or to give fatwa, like some of the examples that we've seen, because this is not how it should be done. So the response to this is kind of similar to the first one also. So we should show them how the technology can strengthen the Islamic observance and not replace it again. So for example, we've seen how the Saudi Arabia was using robots to answer common questions, but those robots are programmed to transfer more complex problems or questions to those who are experienced, so to the human scholars who can answer these questions adequately. So this will ease the concern and give more trust to the systems. One more concern is that we don't have the skills to develop these systems ourselves, and therefore ensure that they are built based on our Islamic principles. And the response to this is very simple, is that we simply learn. So learning is a religious obligation, because طلب العلم is فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة, and when we say طلب العلم, it's not just restricted to the religious knowledge. It extends to every علم نافع that we can see. And of course, AI or technology is one of these beneficial knowledge that we should seek. The last concern that is listed, of course, there might be other concerns, is that the change can be very risky. So what if we, for example, delegate some task to AI and it fails? There is one case that a company fired some of its employees and completely replaced them with AI. I think it was a customer service kind of job, but in a short period of time, they got a lot of complaints from the customers, and they actually had to get their employees back because the AI system was not able to give the exact level of service as the humans. So sometimes we may be wondering, what if we do this on a larger scale and then we cannot undo it? Or maybe what if actual, like, more serious damage has done? So this is a valid concern, of course, but it is a greater risk in falling behind. So just like when the computers were introduced, some people were reluctant to learn and to use them. Now it's just becoming a norm. And It's just how the technology advances and how the ilm advances for the human's benefit. So we know that it should entail some risk, but then we should have the precautionary policies and acts in place to avoid these risks or simply just to minimize them, because this is just the way that things are going to continue to be. Now, the final topic that I'm going to discuss today is Islamic AI leadership, which kind of summarizes or concludes the three topics. So we are seeing advancement, but we have some concerns from an Islamic perspective about them. We have this responsibility for sustainability and green AI, and we now want to manage the change in a way that addresses our concerns. So the only way we can do this is through Islamic AI leaderships, meaning that we need Muslim scholars to be responsible for the development of the AI systems that we as Muslims use. We don't want just to import this from Western companies that may have ethical guidelines, but they are not matching or they are not comprehensive to our Islamic principles. So here we have hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, the best of people are those who benefit others, or khayrun nas anfa'uhum linnas. So we want to be beneficial, we want to provide an affect. So why do we have this need for Islamic AI leaders? Because first we need to bridge the technology and Islamic ethics. We cannot require the Western or the non-Muslim societies, the scholars, to develop the systems based on the way we see it. Of course, we can have this as a requirement if we are outsourcing some of the functions, but it is important that we have the upper hand in this to ensure that is done in the correct way. We also want to guide the organizations through AI transformation. When they try to implement AI, some of them will fail. And we've seen examples also about how if the AI model is not trained properly on good quality data, it can produce biased decisions, and this will harm the company. So it is important that we teach how to use this from an Islamic perspective, how to ensure that this is correct. To advocate also for the ethical AI practices globally, and also to nurture the next generation of Muslim technologists. So we want to make this technology ours. We want to develop it in a way that is consistent with our own principles. So what is required to develop this Islamic AI leadership? It comes in three different but interconnected domains or perspectives. First, we have the technical, the Islamic, and finally the leadership requirements. So for the technical requirements, we need the specialists or the professionals to have understanding of AI technologies and capabilities, how to manage data and other interpersonal skills, also to have cybersecurity awareness, and along with the digital strategy development. We want them to have the Islamic component as well, or the Islamic competencies. These require deep knowledge of Islamic ethics and the guidelines and policies and laws, and the ability to apply the Sharia principles to the new technologies, and of course include the cultural sensitivity. And finally, we need to have this, so having the technical and the Islamic competencies, we need to have the leadership competencies, meaning that they are able to lead the change, to communicate with cross-cultural initiatives, to have ethical decision-making, and to actually have the vision and strategic thinking to implement these initiatives. So these are the basic competencies that we require to enable the Islamic AI leadership. So I'm going to conclude with some examples of nations that actually are on the way or actually implemented what we are talking about. Here we have an LLM, which is a large language model called Noor AI, which is launched by Zetrix AI in Malaysia. This was, I think, it was launched last month. So this is considered the first Sharia-aligned LLM, and this is a huge achievement. So this LLM provides guidance in Malay, Indonesian, Arabic, and English, and it covers several aspects such as halal dining, Islamic finance, some legal advice that is anchored in Islamic principles. So instead of going to ChatGPT to ask a religious question, you can head to Noor AI and it will give you a more accurate answer because it is trained. Remember when we talked about the data training and the sources of bias, it is trained on Islamic sources. The data is verified. When you head to ChatGPT, what it's going to do is that it's going to look into all the sources that are available, and some of them are not verified. So it may give you wrong or misleading answers. Another LLM or another advancement is Humane. Humane is actually another LLM, so a large language model, just like ChatGPT, that is created by the Saudi Arabia. So this Humane is actually the AI company, and their model is called Alam. They have many versions of it, but this 34B is one of them. So Humane is the company, and it is backed by the Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. It is developing integrated AI capabilities. What they have done is that they recently launched their Humane chat. So the Humane is the company, and their model is, they have one model that is Alam, and they have launched another that is called Humane Chat. So what does it do? This Humane Chat will respond in mainly Arabic language and is supporting many dialects. So you can address it in different other dialects. And it's also was built by AI experts with data hosted entirely inside the kingdom. So it is 100% Arabic Islamic kind of LLM. I'm going to share the promo video. I'm not sponsoring. It's just kind of sharing some of the advancement that we are seeing in the Muslim and Arab world. So I'm just going to share the video. Okay, so the idea behind this is that you can speak in your, of course, you can speak in Arabic to ChatGPT, but my personal experience is that some of the content may not be accurate. So I remember one time I was using ChatGPT for some Arabic text, and it gave me a very wrong word. And when I tried to correct it, saying, okay, this is not the right word, this means a different thing, it says, yeah, okay, I'm mistaken, and then it gave me another wrong word. So being an Arabic native, I know it's wrong. But if you don't know, then you will be given the wrong kind of information. So it is important that we have tools that are designed in our language that can cater to our needs. And also, it is built with Islamic and cultural sensitivity. So it is including all the elements of the culture and the Islamic guidelines and values and so on. So it will be even kind of safer. We cannot say that it's completely safe with an AI because, of course, it can make mistakes, but it's kind of safer to be used than just a general AI or LLM system. So with this, I want to highlight the role of all of us as Muslim professionals, regardless of what kind of professionals you are specialized in. So this is not just for people in the business analytics or AI system. This is our responsibility as a Muslim ummah or Muslim society. So here we need to educate ourselves. So before developing the technical expertise with the ethical awareness, we need to educate ourselves about what's actually happening in this world. And such courses are, I think, one of the opportunities to get this knowledge. And also, it is important that you follow up with what are the advances, what are the issues, what are the concerns that we should address. And it is important to be an advocate for Islamic values in technology decision. So we know that the general principle in economy is that when we have demand for something, then the supply will follow. So if we all stopped using certain technologies or we boycott certain technologies because they do not align with our Islamic values, alternatives will be developed because this is a void, this is a gap that needs to be filled. So we need to do this, and we need to ensure that the technology that we develop will serve the entire ummah, not just the elites. So we want to ensure accessibility of this technology by simplifying it and making it accessible to all the communities, all the Muslim communities, not just people who can afford it. And finally, to bring an Islamic perspective to the global technology discourse. And we've seen some instances of the conferences that are being held and all the communication, the research that is being done to actually educate about this. So this is our opportunity to shape the technology that embodies our Islamic values instead of just borrowing from the Western countries or the non-Muslim economies who may or may not align with our values. Okay, so with this, I conclude my session and module. So it's been an interesting journey to go with you through this module, starting from the beginning through all the sessions that we've went through together. And I hope that you had like some insights. I mean, the duration is very short to go in depth, but I hope that at least I shed some light about the topics that are of interest to you. So thank you very much for your attendance, for your participation. And next week, inshallah, we will be having a guest speaker to kind of wrap everything up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sara. So now we can see in the chat box there is question, Doctor.
Okay, let me check the questions. Okay, so we have one comment. I think it's not a question, that AI should be supportive staff. I think this is following the case about the company that fired all the employees and got AI as a replacement, right? So yes, they should be supportive staff, but I think maybe the company got really excited about the performance of AI and thought that they can save on the salaries of the other staff. So we're not quite there yet. We still have some time till these systems can be completely, or not completely, but to a more degree responsible for their actions. Was there a survey conducted of the contemporary ulama Views on the advantages of AI. Okay, so survey. I'm not sure. This is a question by Hassan. Was there a survey conducted of the contemporary ulama's views on the advent and use of AI? So I'm not sure what you mean by survey, but there are research papers that have been interviewing. Maybe I can put something in the references. One of them is actually by researchers from IIUM here who interviewed some of the ulama, the scholars, and asked them about the use of AI. I'm not sure if it was in educational context or in general use context. General attitude and consensus, what appears to be the emergent opinion. So in my personal opinion, based on what I have read so far, maybe we can verify this with other references, is that we can apply the principle of ijtihad. So when you take AI and try to say or to judge, is it okay to use or not? What you are actually applying is ijtihad based on measuring the similarities between this tool and other tools. So as I mentioned, every tool, when it is first introduced, we will have this kind of debate. Now, the debate is more intense because the capabilities of AI are more intense and it is intersecting with many aspects of the life. But if you take AI as a system, it is not very different than all the technological advancement that we've seen before. And at every stage, there will be some scholars who are conservative, preferring not to make any kind of conclusion until it is completely verified. And there will be others who are more open to trial with boundaries, of course, with guidelines. And of course, eventually, we cannot have like a complete consensus. So it is still on debate, especially on specific uses. But I think the general opinion that it is just a tool. So it depends on how you use it, how you apply it. I hope this answers your question. Okay. Does Muslim society be developed an AI more advanced technology compared to Islam and much more prospective due to open world? I'm afraid I didn't fully understand the question. So is it, does Muslim society be developed an AI? Like, is it able to develop, or is it have it already developed an AI? So if the question is can, then yes, of course, we can. And some of the examples I've shared prove this, that it's already happening. And if the question should they develop AI or more advanced technology, then absolutely yes. So the idea is that we should localize this knowledge and use it in a way that is consistent and aligned with our values. This is the idea. Okay, the slides, yes, I'm very sorry. The slides of this presentation are not yet uploaded. I will upload them after concluding here. Okay, you will deliver a panel presentation post research in aid of legislation. Okay, I'm glad this was helpful for you. All the best, inshallah. Best of luck. Okay, thank you. I think we don't have more questions, right? Is it true that every technology weakens some human capabilities? Well, in my own understanding, the answer is yes and no. So every technology will weaken some human capabilities. For example, when we invented the wheel as a technology, this weakens some of our physical capabilities, right? Because we are no longer relying on our physical strength. When we invented any kind of for example, home appliances. This weakens some of our capabilities. When we invented technological or digital diaries, this weakens some of our memory capabilities. I remember when I was younger, I was able to memorize the phone numbers of my parents, my friends. So when we used to have the not the cell phone, like the home phone, the old type of phone. So you need to memorize that, because when you write it in a note, you may sometimes misplace the note and then you're in trouble. But when we now have the cell phones, you don't have to memorize any number because you simply register. So this weakens some of our human capabilities. Now with AI, people are discussing that it will weaken, of course, some of the human capabilities, but it is our call, it is our decision to decide which type of human capability. So we've already seen students using AI to write. So in some time, they will lose if they continued in this path and nothing happened. This will weaken their capability of writing. But many other capabilities, like, for example, handwriting. So it is no longer a requirement for a student to have like a really neat handwriting, except for the final exams, of course, because most of the assignments will be submitted in software or in soft copies. So this also weakens some of the human capabilities. My take on this, this is my personal opinion, is that it's just a kind of development. The same way that we do not expect a person to memorize all the phone numbers of their friends and relatives, because now we have smartphones to do that, we should maybe expect something higher. So instead of focusing on writing capabilities, having perfect grammar, having perfect spelling, because also most of us now rely on autocorrect and spelling detectors, we should maybe demand more critical thinking. We should demand more insights generation. Maybe we should demand something higher, because the simpler tasks are now being fulfilled by the technology. So this is my personal take on it. And of course, we can agree or disagree on this. So Humane Chat is not available at the moment out of the Saudi Arabia, but I think in their website, it's linked in the slides. They say that they have plans to expand outside the KSA. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much for the interesting questions as usual.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sara, for your offers, sharing, insightful sharing, and wonderful, mashallah. Thank you very much. May Allah grant you Jannatul Firdaus, inshallah.
Ameen, ameen, ya Rab. Thank you all for your attendance. And for further communication, I have also added my LinkedIn profile link in the dashboard. So maybe we can continue the discussion or further communicate there if you do use LinkedIn, of course. So thank you very much, and going back to you, Jared.
Okay, because today maybe we doesn't have break time. So interesting.